Hello, this is Lily Morningstar, your instructor at College of Southern Nevada. If you're watching this video, you're in my class CAT 217 Security Plus, and we're working on the book Security Essentials by Lavender. This week, we work on the chapter 8, Mobile Devices and Embedded Systems. After completing this chapter, students will be able to summarize employees' use of mobile devices, explain types of mobile devices connection methods, list examples of management tools to implement secure mobile solutions, summarize techniques for secure mobile devices, discuss ways to enforce and monitor mobile devices used by employees, define embedded systems and its components, list and explain common constraints of embedded systems, discuss embedded systems security, summarize industrial control systems, ICS, and the use of SCADA, explain the Internet of Things, or IoT, list and discuss examples of embedded systems and applications. So what is mobile devices? First of all, how would we define mobile devices? Any device that is capable of being carried around, not like our desktop, would be considered a mobile. Your phone, your tablet, or your laptop would be considered a mobile device. Now we need to discuss a couple policies that companies currently implemented for employees, because it's really important in cybersecurity to be familiar with these policies and differences between them. So first policy would be bring your own device, or BYOD. You will often hear this term BYOD. Basically, when company allows employees to bring their personal phones, their personal computers into the work environment and use as their work tool. Great example as of right now, I'm lecturing using my personal computer in my office in our campus. Next one would be choose your own device, CYOD. And this is different from BYOD because this device will not belong to employee. This device will belong to the company, but company would let employee to choose out of the list of allowed devices which device employee would like to get. With this type of policy, company has more control over devices, and obviously it more secure than BYOD. And the last one here on the list would be COP, company owned personally enabled. So the difference with the previous, it's when company gives employee device that owned by company, but this device can have also personal settings for the employee's work and everyday communication. Out of all three, the most secure probably will be CYOD or COPE, when company has, if not full, but at least some level of control of the devices, and all employees must sign user agreement, acceptable use policy, or AUP, to be able to use these devices within an organization. Mobile devices can be corporate owned and personal. So we already discussed about personal devices, but corporate owned when employer purchases these devices and issues them to the users, employees of the company. The image on the bottom of on the left you see is actually represents virtual desktop infrastructure. So what would be a virtual desktop infrastructure. Virtualization is a type of technology that allows us to use virtual computers inside of the real computers. So these virtual computers would utilize resources of real computer, and it would feel like you're using actual computer, not the virtual. There are some drawbacks of this, and you need to be aware of them. And one of the first, that if your hardware of your real device is limited, your virtual machines also will be limited to this hardware. If you have, as example, 8 gigs of RAM, you will not be able to assign all 8 gigs for your virtual appliance. You will need to make sure you leave some RAM to run your operating system. Virtual desktop infrastructure is a type of virtualization where a user can log in from his, for example, personal device or company-owned device, but the operating system will not be installed in a device itself. It will be probably somewhere in the server or in the cloud, and it will spin off from there. Cellular connectivity. We're all using mobile devices, and when we're using mobile devices, most often now we don't even use it for voice communication. We're browsing internet, we're exchanging images, we sending emails to each other, and that all became possible with 4G and of course 5G technology. G stands not for gigabyte, gigabit, or anything like that. It's literally generation. I would highly suggest you to go back and study different generations. What is the second generation, third generation, and what are the difference between them. At this point, we will not touch the basics of generations of cellular connectivity technologies, but we will talk a little bit about towers and how devices connected to each other. So what is the cellular network? Cellular network is basically many towers around the city that interconnect each other, and they will represent some type of cell. That's where a cellular word coming from, where user will be within that cell connecting to one of the towers that connected. And how reliable or the coverage is definitely depends on the number of towers near each other. And if there are many towers, like in the metro area, that you will be able seamlessly travel within this metro area without even knowing that your mobile device switching connection from one tower to another. However, if you in some rural area where not so many towers, there are high chances where you will be able to find places with no connection at all. Bluetooth is actually very old technology. It's one of the connectivity technology that we use everywhere and every day now. Wirelessly, we're connecting from our mobile device to the speakers, as you can see on the image, or wireless computer mouse, wireless displays, anything that can be connected via Bluetooth. And it sort of short range connection, but with a recent updated Bluetooth is not as short as it's used to be. So current devices provide within 30 feet of each other. As a matter of fact, right now I'm using my Bluetooth wireless speakerphones and microphone to record this lecture, and I can go downstairs of my house and wear this microphone and still be able to have pretty good connectivity to my laptop. There are a few options how hackers can hack this connectivity, and one of them would be when somebody is using tethering. So what is the tethering? When you're using your mobile device network, let's just say 5G, and you connect any wireless device, maybe your laptop, to your mobile device via Bluetooth. So your mobile device connects to the internet, and it serves sort of as a modem router for your laptop. And tethering is one of those technologies that put the organization at risk and users at risk too. If you're tethering your phone with your computer, this type of connection might be not very secure, and you will need to make sure that you're turning off and implement encryption and provide yourself with the security such as password. You will not allow anybody who you don't want to be connected to connect to your device. USB connectivity. USB connectivity is not really wireless technology. It's a physical connection that would allow someone to connect through the universal serial bus to the laptop, desktop, or mobile phone. So if you're using one of the recent mobile phones, you will be able to see that you're using, most likely, unless it's iPhone, Type-C connectivity. And if you're using Type-C is one of the most recent USB connectors that provide higher speed and strong connection and even power over this connection. And if you're using your mobile device, you will have iPhone, you will have most likely Lightning connector. Not most likely, it's for sure, because Apple stays within their own connector, but most of the devices currently implemented USB Type-C, and for the security reasons within the organization, USB connectors, USB should be completely disabled on company-owned devices, so employees will not be able just plug in any devices they want, especially thumb drives, and collect the data from the company-owned devices. A USB on the go is type of USB connection that enables multiple mobile devices to be connected without using a computer. So basically, when you're connecting devices through the USB. Wi-Fi connectivity is one of the most common connections in the networks today, and the reason for that, it's extremely comfortable because we're using it wirelessly and we have internet access pretty much everywhere. It's been quite a few years where all organizations have wireless connectivity available everywhere else. I still remember the times when to get a Wi-Fi, you had to actually find a really good spot where the connection is really good, but that's not the case nowadays. And pretty much every cafe shop, every library or college or any business pretty much has a Wi-Fi connection for the guests that you will be able to use as a guest. Again, if you're using one of the guest Wi-Fis, there are high chances that this Wi-Fi is not secure. And for better or worse, most small companies, they do not take Wi-Fi security very high, and they would use simple passwords or very easy guessable passwords or no password at all. And we need to make sure we realize how important it is to change default login and password for all the network devices, especially wireless, because anything that in there can be collected with the network sniffer, and all these packets, if they're not encrypted or if this device is easily accessible with the unsecure login and password, they all can be compromised. Hotspot, it's easy accessible and, as it says, often unsecure internet access point. So you can use your mobile device as a hotspot. So basically what we call tethering, but you also can use it as a hotspot for Wi-Fi connection. And then other devices will be able to connect through the Wi-Fi to your device. Wi-Fi Direct is the again, Wi-Fi, it's wireless, so we know that allows device-to-device communication. And great example would be your mobile phone and your computer connecting to each other via Wi-Fi. And ad hoc Wi-Fi would be a type of small area network when one device connects directly to another device without accessing router in general, just by adding into each other networks. Mobile devices management tools. So we will take a look at few types of mobile device management, or MDM. Please remember this acronym. It's a set of software tools, and basically it provides a management platform that will allow your organization to modify, secure, or control your device remotely. Just in case you lost your device, they will be able not just disable this device, but collect data from that device remotely. Enterprise mobility management, it's same MDM but on enterprise level that allows more capabilities and implementing of policies, and it will give the organization more protection. Unified endpoint management, UEM, it's a software tools, and again, it provides a management platform to manage multiple endpoints, including mobile devices, laptops, or anything that can be connected to the internet. And mobile application management, or MAM, that's a little bit different from all previous device management tools. This can control applications that installed on the mobile device. So administrator can allow or disallow blacklist or whitelist applications that can be installed. Let's see again at different mobile device management tools. So mobile content management, MCM, is a solution that enables company to have control over mobile devices and its content. Application management just allows to control what can be downloaded, what can be installed, and how we can do different settings on these applications. Password management, that's a tool that allows to set different password expectations, let's just say, to control how often users changing the password, how complex their password. Basically, it's the password policies for mobile devices. And password vault is one of the important tools that we should all start using if we're not using yet. It's basically a database of all resources, apps, websites, and passwords that we use on these websites. The benefit of this is that Password Vault usually creates complex passwords and uploads these complex passwords into database and saves there. So users often don't even know their own passwords, and these passwords are long and secure and provide better security than make user to create their own passwords. How would we secure mobile device? Well, MDM is one of the important tools that will help us to secure mobile device. For our employees, it's really important, especially if they're traveling or taking this device out of the our corporate building or working from home, that their devices can be disabled remotely in case they lost or stolen, and that they have conditional access to different resources that are implemented by organization. Often it can be set to separate accounts on a mobile device if it's, for example, bring your own device policy implemented in place, where employee would be using one type of login and account within the organization for work, and different type would be used for using this device at home or for personal work. I mean, for personal use, not for work. Physical security, as we discussed previously, it's really important to make sure that device is physically secure, so it's protected from theft, and it's apple picking is one of the theft when somebody just grabbing it, and it's enabled with the remote wipe. We already discussed this, and it's enabled with kill switch, so in case it's lost or stolen, we will be able to wipe remotely the whole data from the device and actually log this device so it will be unuseful. A geolocation will help us to identify the pretty much exact location of the device if it's in case it's stolen. Apple is doing a really good job with that. Through their website, you can always see each of your devices where they're located. Global Positioning System GPS would allow us to control the navigation and where device went, basically trace the device. And GPS tagging is GPS information that would be sent from the mobile device as a token, where you can enable certain applications or get access to certain data based on your location. So if your mobile device detects that you within your corporation, within your company, that's when you will get full access to the account that's been enabled for the company resources only. All right, so I had to pause recording for a moment, and I'm back to live. recording, and let's go to the next slide. Cameras and microphones. So we all well aware, and this image of Mark Zuckerberg on the right with his laptop, and what you can see there? Well, obviously you can see a tape on his microphone and his camera. There are types of software that malware that would enable your cameras and your microphones and pretty much spy on you and your daily activities. So it's extremely important for you to remember that if you have a device that capable of being turned on cameras and microphones remotely, it's really important to implement some level of security. Maybe taping is not the most advanced type of protection, but it works. Authentication. There are a few ways of authenticate yourself on a mobile device. One of the most common would be using biometrics. So your retina scanner, your fingerprint, that would be the most common currently on most of mobile devices that most recently came out into the market. And it will basically limit anyone from accessing your device. It's more secure than a screen lock with the passcode on it, especially if someone using only 4-digit passcode. Push notification authentication is a type of authentication when you will be getting push notification on a mobile device when you try to authorize in a secondary device. So your mobile device would sort of work as unlocking mechanism for this device through the push notification. Context-aware authentication. So that's a configuration that based on situation information, your location where you are, your identity, time of the day, when you're supposed to be in your office. Also, type of this context-aware authentication would be time-based login. So if you're not supposed to be at your work before 8 or after 5, you will not be able to log into your devices if you're there. And travel restriction and time restriction. So there's a safeguards that will implemented if you're traveling, and access to certain resources will not be available until the specific location and specific time. And as you can see, if the travel between two locations faster than anticipated, means that the device have not been hacked. So what could happen, like if somebody could mock your device or spoof your MAC address, and at one moment in time you will be like sitting in your office and connecting to the wireless network of your organization, and next moment in time you suddenly connecting from some other location that you would not be able to basically travel in that short amount of time. So the other person who trying to connect to that device using your MAC address will not be able, because it's impossible travel time restriction. Lockout is, again, we talk about remote wiping, and lockout is when your phone will be disabled. What if you lost your device, it haven't been wiped yet, and someone who doesn't know your password and will enter this password more like the number of times that set on the device, this device will be locked out. And another good example, if device is locked out, first it will be locked out like for a period of time. Second time it will be locked out for longer time, and eventually it will be completely blocked. It will prevent brute force attacks. For example, if you have a 4-digit PIN, which should be not that hard to guess, maybe with the lucky guess, someone can enter your 0000 PIN code and basically enter your device. But if you have more complex and different digits and not in order, that's when the attacker would need more than one try to actually access your device. Storage segmentation is important when all storage need to be divided into logical containers, and when one container is compromised, the rest of them remain perfectly fine and uncompromised, and any type of malicious software will not escape this container. So this will allow us to have a better protection of our resources on our devices. Push notifications we just mentioned earlier. That's type of messages when you receive on your mobile device without interaction. A great example would be on the left on the image of push notifications from our email or messages, but also push notifications can be used to authenticate device. You have control over what push notifications you will be able to see on your device, on your logged device. So as you can see, if somebody will pick up the phone that you left on the table and there is a push notifications that shows some of the information, like somebody of the text, somebody of your email, that's unsecure. So most likely you need to make sure as an administrator that employees of the organization that you admin will not have their corporate email with push notifications showing any body of the text. MicroSD hardware security model. So HSM, well known as hardware security model, is a cryptographic device that stores and encrypts keys and basically performs all types of cryptographic functions. We will talk about this in a couple chapters from now again. But in MicroSD, it's more mobile, lightweight version of HSM, and it provides very much the same capabilities as standard size HSM. And vulnerability would be it's vulnerable to cracking because of any cryptographic device would be vulnerable to cracking, but this also portable and it's easier to lose than the hardware implemented inside of the system. And if somebody decides to get the data, it would be more likely vulnerable to the cracking than the hardware device that's embedded in your desktop, as example. Security enhancements for Android. I'm personally a Mac user, Apple products user, and there are many people who are absolutely against Apple products due to their company policies and the cost of their devices. So they would prefer Android because of its flexibility and ability to ability to basically customize the operating system on their mobile devices. But it also comes with very specific vulnerabilities, because if it's open source and easily customizable, they're highly likely that someone will use it as malicious, with malicious purposes. And Android specific security tool, Android or Android, is the tool that prevents apps and processes from accessing data and resources they're not allowed to access. It identifies and addresses all the critical gaps in Android security, which is really a lot of gaps without it. And it's used Mac model. We discussed different models back in the chapter 2. So mandatory access control, and the privileges will be based on the policies. So if the policy states that you can or cannot access certain resources of the organization through your mobile device, if you can or cannot install certain applications on your mobile device, you will not be able. And Syndroid also protects integrity of applications that installed and any data that in the device itself. Enforcement and monitoring, as pretty much in every aspect of security, enforcement and monitoring would be traveling from layer 0 to the last layer of layered security, and it would be extremely important to make sure that we keep track of all the devices issued to the employees. We will keep track of all data that comes in and comes out of that devices. So external media should be restricted. Means that if a user would be using work device somewhere else, there should be restrictions applied. There should be no unauthorized access, and there are definitely some gaps in security of using external media devices within the organization, because with the example with bring your own device, you don't really manage that device as an organization, your employee does, so you don't have a lot of abilities to control the storage of the device. Maybe user will bring malware inside of their device into the organization without knowing of this, so it's maybe even unintentional. Or there can be some type of side loading, which is when or instead of like using applications from the app store that already has verified apps, and users often just use some type of applications from somewhere else, and those applications, without being verified, without being approved by organization, can be highly unsecure and actually can exfiltrate data from the device. So here's different types of text message threats. With SMS, which is short message service, you might get some social engineering messages, but because you don't really transmit any data or files over this or images, typically it's secure. So the only problem would be social engineering attack. MMS, multimedia message service, is different. That's where you will be able to send images, audio messages, short video clips, and that's where it gets vulnerable to malicious malware, basically malicious software. And rich communication services, RCS, and it's similar to SMS, but It has more options such as emoji, but as you can see, it does not support end-to-end encryption, so it is insecure. All right, let's talk about mobile payments. Nowadays is not a surprise if we can use our mobile phone to make a payment online or using payment system. So what technology would allow us to do this? We have a couple different technologies that could be used, but RFID and NFC are two of them that most often you can see as wireless communication in your mobile phone. NFC is near field communication, that it's basically a chip that allows us wirelessly on a short, very limited distance to transmit the data. Yes, this type of wireless technology is not entirely secure. It's getting better because currently mobile devices actually do have encryption. And guess what? That malware can be also sent through this wireless communication because it does not really allow any high-level authentication. Employees should not have any permissions to make personal payments using their mobile devices. And there are ways of bypassing device restrictions, and you can see it's jailbreaking, rooting, and carrier unlocking. So as you know, many devices coming locked to the specific carrier, AT&T, T-Mobile, or Verizon, you name it. We have more than 3 carriers, and they have their devices locked specifically to use with their services. However, often users find a way to unlock the device and use with the different carrier, maybe with carrier with lower prices, but technically it is illegal. Routing, it's simple bypassing restrictions, and routing is known to be Android type of hacking of the mobile devices, let's call it this way, where you will be able to get administrative rights to the device. And it comes from word root on all Linux devices. That stands for privileged user with administrative rights. And Android, as you know, is type of Linux system. Jailbreaking is for iOS devices, very similar to routing. And unauthorized firmware. So firmware is basically a program, a software that hardly embedded into the chip on your system. So usually the firmware is designed and installed by manufacturer. However, some users find a way to customize or even download off-market firmware to their embedded systems. It's extremely important for the security that firmware will be updated on time for all devices, and to monitor that users do not overpower their restrictions. And let's talk about embedded systems. So embedded system, it's a combination of hardware and software within one device, and basically it's like all on one chip. And microprocessor-based computer system designed for specific functions like your smart toaster. Let's just say it's one of the embedded system devices now. And specific of the use that toaster to basically it has this microprocessor just like your computer, which is maybe not just like on your computer, maybe weaker, but it has limited operating systems, and it will allow some type of control over that toaster, refrigerator, microwave, washer, dryer, you name it. And smart sensor is a device that receives and computes the data from all physical surroundings. A great example would be smart HVAC control systems with the sensors. And security is a big question in these embedded systems. Until very recently, all embedded systems were not secure systems at all, and they were vulnerable to all types of attacks. A great example would be devices such as smart home devices, refrigerator, microwave, toaster, connected to our personal network that we use at home, maybe for work now and for our watching Netflix. But someone would be able to penetrate the network using access through your refrigerator. And system on a chip, it's integrated circuit, and basically it's like embedded system, like everything in one single chip. So in one chip you have CPU, processor, memory, and storage, and connected input-output ports. Lately, it's became very popular to use this system on the chip technologies for multiple wearable devices, medical devices, or smart appliances for home. And it's small, very portable, lightweight, and inexpensive to actually manufacture. Okay, let's talk about real-time operating systems. So operating systems designed specifically for SOC and for the embedded systems, the systems on the chip. And it runs continuously. It does not require a lot of memory, unlike your Windows or Mac OS. And if it will require some type of big task and processing of larger number of data or requests, it will most likely run slower. Periodically, it needs to be rebooted for the same reason, because this real-time operating systems gets basically clogged with the data while it operates with this. And it uses shared memory, so means that all content would be using the memory, and if there is some malicious content, it basically would be DOS attack, which denial of service, when too much of junk data or junk requests would be sent to this real-time operating systems and make it unusable. And it works through the transferring messages as queries on a system level. And that's something, as I mentioned before, word requests. So queries would be as requests. And very similar to some of the cloud technologies that we will learn in the future, where you will be sending requests or queries to the system that controls some of your cloud resources and cloud technologies. And yes, it can be easily attacked via simple code injection. So because of this issue, it should be secured. And we discussed firmware in a moment, but what is firmware? Basically, it's embedded code, embedded software that is read-only. You cannot really make any changes to that software. That operates hardware on a lower level. So your ROM, which is your memory, or but this ROM, unlike RAM, random access memory, is long-term storage, but is not really a storage. It just remembers the setting for your hardware on your specific device. And without firmware, the basically components of the hardware will not communicate properly with each other. So it's extremely important for us to update firmware when it's need to be updated and not allow any unauthorized changes to this firmware. Constraints of embedded systems. So we already realized that all the systems on the chip are embedded systems that embedded into some type of technology that previously, maybe in the past, didn't need this computing technology, such as your smart toaster. So power. Low capacity of battery for the embedded systems because we cannot make it heavy. We need to make it super portable, just like your smartwatch. Computation, again, it has very limited computing power, is not as powerful as your desktop, laptop, or even your smartphone. Networking, high-speed networking such as Wi-Fi most likely will not be possible. However, depending on the device, great example would be some of the medical devices that connected through the Bluetooth to your mobile phone. So Bluetooth is a type of high-speed wireless connection at this moment because the most recent Bluetooth, specifically designed for embedded systems, allows these devices to communicate in more higher speed than it's used to be. Cryptography, well, there are pretty much no cryptography or very limited cryptographic abilities for embedded systems. And patching, it's not user-friendly, let's call it this way. So here we can see some types of attacks that can be implemented on embedded systems. We see these embedded systems everywhere in our household. We can see all these embedded systems in our cars. And what the worst, we can see all these embedded systems in devices that control our health. So let's start with home. We have our smart light bulbs, we have our smart refrigerators, and who knows what else, maybe our smart TVs. So it's possible to take control of all of these devices because they pretty much computers connected to our network and steal information. Some of those devices, they might contain information, such as our TV is also pretty much a computer, so you would store some data there, maybe your passwords for the logins of your Netflix and so on. And disrupt services basically make your smart appliances not smart and very unuseful, or for example, turn off your refrigerator remotely and make your food all go bad. Uh, Same with the car, but I would say it's a little more dangerous than just make your food go bad, because you might get an accident or crash or completely uh, get your car destroyed by some attack. Alyssa Knight wrote a book, Hacking Connected Cars, and she was writing how incomplicated it can be to disrupt car services wirelessly, or how to take control over the car if someone decides to. And the worst probably would be medical devices such as pacemakers or insulin pumps. Wearable devices probably not as bad, but insulin and pacemakers would be the worst if there will be some type of disruption of service, or if somebody will be able to take a control of it. Like insulin pump, what if someone takes control of insulin pump and start injecting insulin and kills the person? Vulnerabilities and flaws of these devices and why all these attacks are possible: lack of authentication, and they are cost effective, so they embedded in pretty much anywhere because it's sort of easy for seller to sell. And we need to talk about implied trust. So it's security and trust. So when system is as secure but not trusted, it's one issue. But another issue would be if the system is unsecure and trusted. That's where it gets worse. So what if you get your pacemaker, which is trusted, but apparently insecure, and finally someone would be able to implement some type of attack and kill the person through the pacemaker? And security of embedded systems. Well, I always advise students to, if they have all the smart appliances in the home network, to make sure those smart appliances not connected all on the same network, and they are not connected to the main network that used for, let's just say, using your computer for work. So methods of maintaining security would be segmented networks. That's exactly what I advise right now. Monitoring to see what your device is doing, where are they connecting, is important. And changing default credentials is really important, because all these embedded devices come with preset manufactured credentials, and they can be easily Googled. Industrial control systems, that's computers that controlling machines in industry, machines that build other machines, machines that provide us with water or power. So basic industrial control system is not just one computer. It's a whole networks of computers that connected to the screen and allows us to monitor and control through that screen. So as you can see from this slide, one of those ICS systems would be SCADA, System Control and Data Acquisition. It's one of the embedded systems. So it does exactly what I described. It just monitors all the work of all the machines in the industry. There are some limitations on what you can or cannot do with the systems. There are a lot of inflexibility. So basically limitations on how you can customize and how you can patch and how you can update. And most of the time it's a single systems that might have another system that would serve as a fallback, but most likely any untested updates or patches would prevent from manufacturing, because who knows what's going to happen during the update or after update. And it serves for automation, where basically everything is done not by people's hands anymore but by robots. And my favorite, IoT, so Internet of Things. All these devices that we previously discussed are, we could be categorized as Internet of Things or IoT devices. So either you a smartwatch or someone's insulin pump or your car, or refrigerator, they all connected to the network, and they all create their own large Internet of Things. Another name for IoT devices would be connected devices. I just previously mentioned Alyssa Knight's book, Hacking Connected Cars. Our cars are connected devices now. Smart devices, my favorite joke to say, the more smart devices we get are in our homes, the more stupid we become. When your refrigerator starts ordering food and not just when you out of certain foods, that's one of those technologies that we call smart devices. And basically it's context-aware computing, the technological term we would use for that. But what do you need specifically to know about it? That all the devices that using AI, artificial intelligence, learning about you, ordering things without you specifically telling them, because of the learning of your behavior, would be considered as smart devices. Your toaster that you can preset every morning to make toast for you. Your coffee machine that preset every morning make coffee for you would be, and they all connected to the network. They all are part of the smart devices network. Wearable technology. One of the most recent announcements, Facebook glasses with Ray-Bans. Before we had Google Glass, and before it was something else. Smartwatches became something that we used to think as innovation. Now it's replaced most likely all normal watch. Activity trackers are no longer just activity trackers. Smartwatches and activity trackers all together. Healthcare devices, I mentioned earlier, insulin pumps and pacemakers. So it's all under wearable devices. And embedded systems and vehicles. I don't know where to start, but modern vehicles, especially high-end vehicles, they are network of computers on the wheels. So there are thousands of embedded systems that monitor and control everything within your vehicle network and send data back to manufacturers as well. There are a lot of vulnerabilities, and as you can see on this image, everything controlled by computer. So your oxygen sensor, your windows, or your you name it from the screen. But this is CAN bus network, and it's common for cars built after 1995. So this is older version of connected cars. And if we're talking about modern Tesla, we would see way more controllers with more advanced computing power that pretty much like your computer. Drones became at some point of time very popular. Drones can carry cameras, microphones, speakerphones, and what's interesting, they can be connected through the Wi-Fi or even have connection through the 4G, 5G mobile networks and travel on the far reach locations, So it's technology basically. If cars were computers on the wheels, this is flying computers. And to protect, well, we don't have to protect drones from getting hacked as much as we have to protect surrounding areas from these drones by being accessed by these drones. Embedded systems and multifunction printers. Well, I mentioned this previous in lectures that printers nowadays are computers, and they also have storage device, and they have very limited to no security. So that's really important to realize that there need to be implemented security measures such as getting user credentials. If it's like company-owned printer and it's on the company's network, it's need to be protected not just by credentials, by encryption as well. And we need to make sure that all the print jobs that been sent to this printer will not be accessible by anyone who wants, so there will be restrictions on the storage device as well. Embedded systems in aircraft, just as cars, our aircrafts is flying computers, everything controlled by computerized systems. And integrated modular avionics is the system of sensors and computers that basically connected into internal network and control the aircraft. Smart meters. The time when meters was just meters and someone had to come over and read that meter and write the numbers from it over. Nowadays, this meter is connected directly to provider of the services such as gas, electricity, water, and would be sending data back regarding your use of the services. Yes, it can be hacked and it can be reprogrammed, and that's one of the major vulnerabilities for these systems. Cameras, again, cameras should be on their own network. They're also highly vulnerable to attacks. Just a while back, there was a story where a hacker, ethical hacker actually, was able to hack organization through the CCTV cameras network that were connected on the same network as everything else. So embedded system and medical systems. Again, I mentioned this, and medical field with all the electronics is not the most secure one. And there are security measures that cybersecurity professionals trying to implement now into medical field, but it's still not as easy. There are many limitations with medical devices. For example, majority of medical devices do not require any type of authentication at all, or if they do require types of authentication, uh, there are high chances this just simple login and password, or that doesn't require complex password. Raspberry Pis. Raspberry Pis, it's a small, basically computers that on a single board you have all in one, and it looks like this. Basically, for the $100 you can build your own, not high speed, not very strong in computing power, but basic computer. And on the background of this computer you can see Raspbian, which is Linux operating system for Raspberry Pi. As a matter of fact, my son at age 6 was able to build his own Raspberry Pi computer and install Raspbian. So that would tell you how easy and fast and fairly cheap computers can be built. However, these computers are not that incapable. You can use them for gaming, you can use them for learning, and you can use them for actual programming. Embedded systems in the field are programmable gate arrays. Basically, did you see Raspberry Pi? So would be more advanced system of chips interconnected with each other through the circuit. As you can see, it's been first introduced in 1985, and it's still highly used in all major smart electronics, all these industrial machines, and it can be reprogrammed, which is allows flexibility, but also it's a security issue. Arduino. So Arduino, it's, as I like to describe Arduino, is type of similar to Raspberry. You can build from basic computers to very interesting robotic technologies with Arduino platform, using different modules that can be connected to this microcontroller. And on the right you can see the microcontroller itself. VoIP, voice over IP. So this technology is still in use in organizations such as our college. What it allows us, through the computer network, IP packets transmit not just voice, but messages, and it would be connected to the entire database, and it's still in use. So it's probably not as used anymore as it's been 5 or 10 years ago, and is not as innovative and modern, definitely. But the fact that I have it in my office, and the fact that we have this in pretty much every classroom in college and still used to communicate between locations of college, tells you that VoIP is something that we still use. The problem, lack of encryption. So if we will be doing some packet capturing, we will be able to decrypt even a voice communication, because our voice communication will be as transmitting of packets. So if we will collect enough packets to reconstruct our conversation, somebody can listen this conversation. Also, vulnerability would be DDoS attack, when somebody decides to attack this device through the multiple calls on the same device, or through the server that allows us to use this technology. So we just covered all the mobile and wireless technologies that we use, but we also need to understand there are still place to go and learn and implement security in these technologies. For many, many years, this technology were used without any security in place and still used this way. So which field in cybersecurity you will be, if it's going to be industrial field or if it's going to be medical field or maybe any organization, you will see embedded technologies and the Internet of Things and mobile devices that need to be secured and controlled. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know and we will set up a meeting.